Good morning, Internet. I want to start with the most useless advice in all of real estate, which also happens to be the most common. Just buy real estate. Don't do that. That's it. That's the advice. And it's like telling somebody, just play sports. Which one? Because the body that makes a great sumo wrestler makes a deeply mediocre jockey. And if you take the jockey and go, no, you've got to bulk up. That's where the money is. Now you've ruined a perfectly good jockey and created a bad sumo wrestler, and I can't say that. A bad sumo wrestler, and everybody loses. Real estate does this to people constantly. There's this idea floating around that there's one right way to do it, and everyone's either winning or losing at that one way. And it's nonsense. There are completely different kinds of people who succeed at completely different kinds of versions of this. And the single biggest predictor of whether someone makes money isn't how hard they work or how much they start with. It's whether they're doing the version that matches the kind of person they actually are. So today, I want to talk about why your type, your wiring, your temperament, whatever you want to call it, basically decides the whole thing. And I'll introduce you to a few of the characters because once you can spot them, you'll see them everywhere, including in the mirror. Let's go. The way I think about this is that everyone's got two dials, and where those dials are set explains most of how they behave with money. The first dial is how much of an entrepreneur you are. High on that dial means you like building things, taking swings, creating something that wasn't there yesterday, tolerating a stomach churning amount of risk because the upside is exciting. Vice versa, low on that dial means the phrase, let's just see what happens, makes you physically uncomfortable and you'd like a plan, please, in writing. The second dial is how much of an investor you are. High means you think in decades, you're patient, you're happy to let money sit and grow, while you do absolutely nothing, and quote, nothing is a strategy you're at peace with. Low means watching paint dry sounds more thrilling than watching an index fund, and if something isn't happening, you start to itch. Now here's the fun part. Most people assume the goal is to be high on both dials, be a bold visionary and a patient genius. And sure, that person exists. We'll get to them. And you'll want to throw something at the screen. But the truth is, every single combination of those two dials is a real, viable, money-making type. There's no bad setting. There's just settings that fit certain games and disaster if you play the wrong one. Let me introduce you to a few. All right, well, let's get the annoying one out of the way first. The unicorn. High entrepreneur, high investor, big vision, and endless patience. They'll take a wild swing and then calmly wait 9 years for it to pay off without losing a single night's sleep. These people are infuriating, and there are about 4 of them, and they're all on a podcast right now telling you that you can be one too if you just buy their course. You cannot. That's like watching a 7-foot tall billionaire explain the secret to the MBA is wanting it. Cool. I love that for you. The rest of us have a normal set of dials set to normal positions. And here's the genuinely useful part about the unicorn. You don't need to be one. The whole reason this is worth understanding is so you can stop trying to become the rare type you saw online and start winning as the very normal type you already are. Most of the wealth in real estate is built by extremely ordinary dial settings who simply played the right game. The unicorn is a distraction, wave at it, and move on. Now, let's do the two types that are basically opposites because watching them is how this whole thing clicks. First, the go-getter, high entrepreneur, medium to low investor. This is the quote, fire, ready, aim person. They love action. They'll have made 3 offers before breakfast, and they consider a problem something you solve by doing more stuff faster. When a go-getter gets into real estate, they're a natural flipper or a wholesaler because those reward speed and nerve and the ability to make a decision before you fully Boy, I can't pronounce anything. And the ability to make a decision before you fully thought it through. Their failure mode is hilarious and predictable. You give a go getter a calm, slow, boring rental that needs to be left alone for 10 years, and within about 4 months, they've improved it, refinanced it, leveraged it, and bolted it onto some new scheme because sitting still felt like dying. They didn't have a bad strategy. They took a good strategy and could not stop touching it. Now, the observer. Low entrepreneur, medium investor. This person's superpower is that they look before they leap, which is fantastic right up until you realize they will look and continue looking, possibly forever. The observer has read every book. The observer has a spreadsheet with tabs. The observer has analyzed 47 deals and bought zero of them. And each one they passed on wasn't quite right, and they're correct, it wasn't. But you also have to buy something eventually, or you're just a very well informed person with no real estate. Stick a go getter and an observer in a room, and the go getter will buy a flaming dumpster out of pure enthusiasm, while the observer talks themselves out of a genuinely perfect deal. Each of them looking at the other thinking, what is wrong with you? Nothing's wrong with either of them. They've just got opposite dials and opposite failure modes, and here's the kicker, they'd each be incredible if they would just hand the other one the steering wheel at the right moment. All right, let me stick up for the types nobody posts about because they're often the ones secretly winning. The foundation builder, low on both dials, not a big risk taker, not chasing fast growth. And the internet treats this like a diagnosis. You're too cautious. You're leaving money on the table. You need to be more aggressive. And the foundation builder hears this and feels bad when in reality, it's them who frequently is still standing after the bold people blew themselves up. This is the person who buys one solid thing, doesn't over leverage, sleeps great, and looks up in 15 years genuinely wealthy and a little confused about why everyone made such a big deal out of it. They didn't lose because they weren't aggressive, they won because they weren't. Their caution wasn't a flaw to fix, it was the strategy. Next, the patient type, decent entrepreneurial streak, but low on the itchy investor dial, so they can take a real swing and actually leave it alone and let it cook. These people drive the go getters insane because from the outside it looks like they're doing nothing, and they are, on purpose, and it's working. The lesson buried in the comedy here, the quote, boring dial settings, are not lesser. They're just attached to games where the winning move is restraint, and restraint doesn't make for exciting YouTube, which is exactly why nobody sells you a course on it. There's no money in teaching people to calmly do very little. So here's why any of this matters beyond being a fun way to categorize your friends. Almost every real estate horror story I've ever heard is a mismatched story wearing a different costume. It's a go-getter who forced themselves into slow rentals and got bored and torched it. It's an observer who tried to be a fast-moving flipper and froze at every decision and lost their nerve and their deposit. It's a foundation builder who got shammed into being aggressive and took on risks that was never theirs to take right before the market reminded everyone that risk is real. None of those people failed because they were bad at real estate. They failed because they were doing somebody else's version of it. They took a perfectly good set of dials and tried to play a game those dials weren't set for, usually because someone successful with different dials told them that's how it's done. And the thing about your type is that it doesn't really change. You can stretch it, you can work on your blind spots, and you can get better. But the go-getter is always going to be a go-getter at 60, and the smart move isn't to fight that for 40 years. It's to find the version of this where being a go-getter is the advantage instead of the liability. Stop trying to sand yourself down into a shape the market will reward. Go find the part of the market that already rewards your shape. So the next time somebody tells you the one true way to do real estate, just quietly translate it in your head to, quote, the one true way for someone with my exact dial settings, and notice that they have no idea what yours are. They are not lying to you. They just think everyone's built like them, which is the single most common mistake humans make about other humans. And I am very guilty of that. You've got two dials. If you're not on mommy and daddy's money and you don't have a W 2, you've got two dials. And even if you do have a W 2 and you're getting into either investment or entrepreneurship or very carefully mixing the two together, they're set where they're set. There's a version of this game where that's a superpower and several versions where it's a slow motion disaster, and the entire trick is knowing which before you spend 3 years finding out the hard way. Figure out your type, then go play the game it was built for and let the unicorns keep their podcast. I'm not one of them. If you want to start on figuring out where your dials are actually set instead of guessing, there's a free quiz in the description. It takes a couple minutes, okay, a few minutes, and it tells you the first type of real estate you should be in. It's a reasonable place to start before you go buy somebody else's playbook. See you on the next one.